This is CJ Baker, and this is Tier List Tuesday. So this week we're going to do an album ranking of Radiohead. So I am a fan of Radiohead, and I've already was familiar with these albums, but I decided to go back and re-listen to them, knowing that I was going to do this tier list. So I'm going to focus on the nine official studio albums. So for example, I'm not including the TKOL remix album or any of the live albums. So we'll get right into it and we're going to do this chronologically. So the very first album is Pablo Honey, their debut. And personally, I think the album is somewhat unfairly maligned. I actually think it's a half decent 90s alt rock album. Like, for example, if a band like Silverchair or Bush released this album, I personally would view this as like the best album of their career. But I think part of the problem is the album is a little bit of an outlier. Like it's like a completely different band recorded the album. Also, I think the album's a bit overshadowed because it's the album of Creep on it. And Creep, I'm not gonna try to downplay Creep. I'm not gonna be that guy that's like Creep is like the worst song Radiohead ever did. Of course not. That's bullshit. It's a classic song, and there's a reason why it resonated. But there's other really good songs I enjoy on the album. And actually, a couple of my favorite songs, I was surprised to find out, seem to be maligned for whatever reason. Like, I love Stop Whispering, but people don't seem to like it. But I really like that. Stop whispering, start shouting. I get a kick out of that for whatever reason. Maybe I'm just dumb. I don't know. And I really like thinking about you, even though people don't seem to like that song either. And then it also closes strong. And actually, Blowout is a song that still sometimes performed live, and that holds up well. And it's an excellent way to close the album. So yeah, on radio music, I had this at 3.5 stars, which quite often for a lot of bands that would probably put it like in a B tier. But for Radiohead, comparing it to the rest of the catalog, I'm gonna put it in the C tier. So that takes us to the second album, the sophomore album, The Bends. And I actually recently did a 1995 deep dive. And of course, I was already familiar with this album, so it wasn't a new discovery. But this was my second favorite album of 95. So my first favorite album was Out Come the Wolves by Rancid, which was an album that I had a big time nostalgic connection to. But I really love this album, 5 star album. And it's my second favorite Radiohead album, an easy God tier. And I also think it's the most accessible album. So to someone that's wondering what Radiohead album to start off with, the album I would recommend probably depends on the taste. But if you think there's someone that might have an issue with some of Radiohead's most experimental aspects, this could actually be a good starting point. And there's so many classic songs. Like I love Fake Plastic Trees. That's just a goddamn beautiful song. And High and Dry, Just, My Iron Lung, Black Star, and then also really strong bookends. Planet Telex and Streets Spirit are strong ways to open and close. So yeah, easy God tier, 5 star album. And that takes us, I said, The Bends is my second favorite Radiohead album. My first favorite, OK Computer, easy God tier. Not just my favorite Radiohead album, but probably a top 10 all-time album for me. Like I love this album. Like it's an excellent album. And I also really like it because this is my first shameless plug. I have the website, Ongoing History of Protest Songs. This is a very socially aware album, which was affected by the political climate of the time. And there's a lot of like anti-capitalistic sentiments. And also at the time of making the album, Tom York was reading a lot of Noam Chomsky, so that influenced the album. especially the song Electioneering. There's just so many great classic songs on this album, and there's absolutely no filler. But yeah, like I love Karma Police, Paranoid Android, No Surprises. But yeah, it's just an all-time fantastic classic album. So this will now take us to Kid A, and this potentially might be my first maybe divisive hot take. So when the album first came out, it was in like real time. And I was already like a huge fan of OK Computer. So I was actually anticipating Kid A. At the time, I was disappointed. Like I just didn't connect with it. I wasn't too keen on the direction it went in. Um, Over time, my opinion of it grew a bit. Like I did start to like it a bit more, but I still never fully connected with the album. So for me, I get that it's considered a significant album and it's an important album in Radiohead's development because it does show them kind of growing artistically. So I get why it's a culturally significant album, but I never fully connect it. And I basically on rate your music, I rated it 3.5. So it's a good album, but it's the same rating I gave Pablo Honey to, which I know that's probably considered blasphemous. But I do consider it a step up from Pablo Honey, even if it's just for the artistic growth. So I will put it in the B tier. And there is some great songs on it. Like I'm not gonna totally dismiss it. Like everything in its right place. Great song. Idiotech. I love Idiotech. And once again, shameless plug on my website, Ongoing History of Protest Songs. I had Idiotech as like one of the 100 greatest protest songs of all time. And it's one of the best songs ever written about climate change. So yeah, it's a good album, but I just never fully connected to it on a personal level. And I want to be honest, I don't want to pretend that, yeah, it's a great God tier album because I think I have to. I'm not going to buy into that myth. Like, this is still based on subjective personal taste. So we're now going to go to Amnesiac. And basically, I had the same issue with this album. Like, initially, I had a tough time connecting to it, but later on, I started to appreciate it a little bit more. So basically, I consider this basically to be Kid A Part Two. Like the albums have a similar vibe to me. It's basically a coin toss, which ones I like better. But there is some good songs on it, like You and Who's Army, great song, Knives Out, great song. So these are songs that hold up really well in Radiohead's catalog. But like I said, some of the experimentation lost me a bit, and it was a bit of a personal disconnect, but still a good album. And like I said, it's comparable to Kid A. It's basically a coin toss, which one I like better. So we'll put it in the B tier. So we're now gonna go Hail to the Thief. And I actually really love this album. It's a fantastic album. And part of the reason is it is the most explicitly political album. And it's an album that really was perfect for that political climate. Like it really resonated like post, I guess a couple years after 9/11. And then there was a lot of political discontent with the Bush administration. And then also there's a couple of songs here that have to deal with climate change as well, which was a pet topic for Tom York. So yeah, some really great, fantastic songs on it, and really strong opening closers, which is something that Radiohead does well. Most of their albums have really strong bookends, which is definitely the case here. And they're great song, Sail to the Moon, Brush the Cobwebs Out of the Sky. That's one of the climate change songs. That's a really strong track. So yeah, I had this album with 4.5 stars. Excellent album. I don't want to say it's a return to form because obviously Kid A is considered an all-time classic, but for me, it was a return to form. Like this kind of represents what I love about Radiohead, and it was even though there's still experimental elements, it was a bit more accessible to me. So yeah, we'll put it in the S tier. Really strong album. Then we'll go to In Rainbows, which I remember when this came out too, and I thought it was really cool the way they released it. The pay what you want method. That was at the time considered somewhat novel and even a little bit controversial. And they basically released it on their own without a major label. So that was kind of cool. But even cooler was the actual album. It's a fantastic album. I can't even necessarily, it's hard to mention my absolute favorite song because I don't think there's a weak song on the album. Like there's no filler here. But I do love Nude and the album that follows it, Weird Fishes. They're both fantastic songs there. But yeah, I could basically just read off the whole track list. So yeah, Easy God Tier. But like I said, it's probably my third favorite. I don't know, it's kind of close. Like it's probably a coin toss between the Bends and Rainbows. I think the Bends has a little bit more of a nostalgic value because I was still in my teens when it came out. But yeah, in Rainbows, goddamn brilliant album. So we'll now go to the King of Limbs. And it's not a terrible album. It does have a couple of really strong songs, like Lotus Flower, Gorgeous. I love Cordax. Like those two songs, they could basically hold up well on just about any Radiohead album. But the rest of the album is a little bit underwhelming, or at least by Radiohead standards. So yeah, on Rate Your Music, I had to set 3 stars, which means it's an okay album, but Radiohead standards, in my personal opinion, this is the weakest album for me. I just didn't connect the same way. And I realize, I mean, I think generally this is considered one of the weaker albums, but I think most people put Pablo Honey on the bottom. But like I said, I mentioned Pablo Honey to me is a little bit underrated. So we will put King of Limbs to the D tier. So it's not a terrible album. It's just by Radiohead standards, it's underwhelming. And it's the weakest album they put out. So then we got their next album. So the last studio album that they released. So that's the Moon Shaped Pool. So in comparison to the King of Limbs, this is a little bit of a, maybe not even a little bit, it's a fairly significant bounce back. Like this is a really solid Radiohead album. Like I love the ambient vibe and it has a really good sense of atmosphere. And I mentioned one of the strengths of Radiohead. There's only one band, Radiohead, not Heads, but they really know how to bookmark their albums. So Burn the Witch, really excellent song, and I love the closer. True Love Waits. That might be a top 10 Radiohead song for me. And I get goosebumps when I hear that too. So yeah, excellent album. I added it 4 stars. If I was to do one critique, because it might be like if it's such an excellent album with these gorgeous songs, why is it not as high as the S and God tier? So basically, I do find there's parts of the album that drag just a little bit and it meanders a little bit. But like I said, overall, really strong album. I did 4 stars on Rate Your Music, and I'll put it in the A tier. So that's my Radiohead tier list. So God tier, and I try to put it in order here. So we got OK Computer. So that's my number one favorite Radiohead album. The Band's number two, in Rainbow number three. S tier, Hail to the Thief. So that's number four. A Moon Shaped Pool is my fifth favorite Radiohead album. A tier. B tier is Kid A and Amnesiac, so that's 6 and 7. And they're basically a coin toss. So it's almost like 6A and 6B. And then my eighth favorite Radiohead album, Pablo Honey, C tier. And my least favorite, The King of Limbs, D tier. So that's basically my tier list. So what do you think of it? Let me know what your favorite Radiohead albums are. Feel free to leave your personal rankings. And if you want me to continue to make these videos, please like and subscribe. So thanks for watching, and please stay safe.
So thanks for watching, we're glad you're here. Join us next week for another round, my dear. In this musical ranking, we scream and shout. This is Tier List Tuesday without a doubt. Get ready for another tier, let's roll the dice until next week.